Hello and welcome to this quick mastering critique and Q&A live stream, which I'm doing free to celebrate the fact that the Home Mastering Masterclass course starts this Friday and is open for sign-ups now. But we'll get onto that in a minute. First of all, I need to check that you guys can see and hear me. So I'm just going to quickly head over to my own YouTube channel. I can see myself mouthing away in silence, so hopefully that's working. But maybe if you're watching this, you could drop a message into the comments in the chat in YouTube on the right hand side of the screen, or underneath in Facebook if you're on Facebook. Excellent. Francesco says he can hear me. Mike says A-OK here. That's great. Please also tell me, where are you watching or listening from? Watching and listening from. That would be great to hear. DM, we can hear you. Jorg, it's okay. It's working. Excellent. We'll test the audio, which will also be an important part in a minute. Now, I do these live streams regularly for members of my Home Mastering Masterclass and my subscription membership, the Home Mastering Hub. So I thought, it'll be easy to jump on and do one of these, until I realized that in that case, I have all my audio in Wavelab, whereas in this case, I'm going to be streaming it from a web browser, and that made things significantly more interesting technically in terms of the audio configuration. So this might be a bit rough and ready, in which case I apologize, but hopefully you guys will forgive me. Let me look at my list. What else do I have to say? The next thing to say is, I've had an amazing response. People seem to love this idea. I've had way too many songs sent in for me to do them all today. I haven't even managed to listen to them all yet. I've got a list of some. I'm going to work through them in the order they came in and talk about as many of them as I possibly can. But if I don't get to yours today, then I'm really sorry. But great to know that people like the idea. Now, I mentioned that I do these kind of live streams for members of my masterclass and the Hub subscription. And that's the reason I'm doing one today, is because the masterclass launches this Friday. It's an 8-week course where you get to be a fly on the wall. Every week there's a new video where I'm mastering a new song using a new piece of software with some new challenges to work through. It's the most popular course I do. I'm super proud of it. It's even better now. It's hosted on the Kajabi platform. And if you want to find out more about that, please head over to homemastering.com, where you can find all the details. If you're interested in the course and maybe having the opportunity to submit one of your songs for a Q&A just like this, or a critique just like this, you can get £90 off this week if you use the code HMMintro. So yeah, the details for that are at homemastering.com. So that's that. What else do I have to tell you? I think that's probably it. We had loads of submissions. Okay, let's test the audio. Let me go across and just play a little bit of this and tell me if you can hear it. Hopefully you can. I'll come back here and look at the comments. I'll just wait a second more for that. David says, yep, and I assume that means you can hear the music audio, so that's great. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through the songs. I'm going to play you some of the song. I'm going to give you my thoughts about it. Then I'm going to try and remember to come back here and look at the comments just to see if there's any kind of quick questions as a follow-up to that, and then I'll move on to the next song, and we'll just get as many done as we can in the hour or so. Yeah, okay, so sounds like there's a slapback delay. That's because I have to remember to mute my microphone. That's the technical challenge I was talking about. Mic ducking in this situation is ridiculous. I didn't leave myself enough time to figure it out. So I'm going to have to remember to mute my mic while I'm playing you the audio and listening, and then turn it back on when I talk to you. So that will be interesting. I'm bound to get it wrong at least once. Please drop in some comments if you notice me doing that. So next thing I will do is share my screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. Yep, that's working. So I'll move across to, this is the first song. This was sent in by Alexis, and it's by Joni or Johnny Calleja. I hope I didn't massacre that too badly. You heard a little snippet of it there. So I will play you some more and then I'll give you some thoughts. And I've also got up some live metering here, which maybe we can talk about if it seems interesting to do that. So let's play you a bit of this song.
Mi felina llega todas las mañanas, maullando y ronroneando por mi espalda, y en su idioma me reclama que le abra la ventana para ir a aventurarse. Y sin tropiezos juega en contra de su gravedad, sus ojos hablan, después se queda quieta y contempla las palomas como una estatua. Y afuera todo es caos, no le importa ni un carajo. Ella es una belleza indomable. Inocencia con ojos de esmeralda, me observa cuando...
It's sounding good. The first thing I noticed was that obviously it's playing from YouTube, so it has been reduced in level slightly. And since I have my monitoring set at a calibrated level, I've lifted it back up to the original level. So I looked at the stats for nerds on YouTube to see that it had been reduced in level by 3 dB. Don't know whether you can read that there on the stream, but and then I've just added that back in the Pro Q here, and I have the Pro L running just as a limiter to catch any peaks to stop the stream clipping. So when I first played this right at the beginning, I wondered whether the kick drum was a little bit heavy, but once the song got going, I think I quite like it. I mean, the level is pretty much exactly where I think it should be. Let's take a look at the numbers for that briefly. What do we have here? Minus 13 points. Oh, of course, that's reading the YouTube stream, so that doesn't take account when I turned it up. But you can see on my dynameter meter over here, which will show me if that gets really narrow and starts getting into the red or the brown, then in my opinion, it's probably getting a bit over limited, over compressed. But that's not the case here. So I'm just going to listen a little bit more and play a little bit with the EQ. The cymbals were a little bit sizzly. I'm wondering whether that low end is a bit uneven, and I wonder whether maybe it would benefit from a little bit of warming up in the low mids. So I'm just going to kind of play around with that. Let me just flick back here to make sure nobody's telling me of any horrible problems. No, that all looks good. Let's see what happens.
Sabes bien seducir y acompañarme cuando todo está al revés, y ella sabe controlarme y yo no puedo controlarla. ¡Au! Y afuera todo es caos, no le importa ni un carajo. Ella es una belleza indomable. Se me pierde, se escapa un buen rato de mis manos, y afuera todo es caos, no le importa ni un carajo. Ella es una belleza indomable.
So hopefully you could hear what was happening on the stream there. So you saw the first thing I did was added that low mid boost that I was talking about. So that's a dB at 385 Hertz, very broad Q for that one. Then I was liking the way that sounded, but I decided to experiment with reducing just the thuddy, thumpy kind of 50, 60 Hertz region of that kick drum. So I've gone in with a cut there of minus nearly 2 dB with a narrower Q. But then immediately it all sounding a bit thin, which I kind of expected. So the benefit of having reduced that fairly narrow region around the kick drum is that I could then introduce this low shelf. So we got an extra dB going back in from about 116 down, which means that I can warm up that whole low end in general without the kick drum becoming even more over the top. And then the final thing was having kind of lifted that warmth down there. I felt like a little bit of high frequency would balance it. Now you might be looking at that curve and going, well, why didn't we just cut there and reduce the highs to start with? And remember, one of my first comments was that maybe the cymbals were a bit tizzy, but you know, that's the way that it goes. I like to approach these things like layers of an onion. You start with the outer layer, you deal with the thing that's most obviously catches your attention, you know, on an onion it'd be scrappy outer layer. I'm not saying this is as a scrappy outer layer, this master or this song, but and then you move through, and at the end of the day, if we end up boosting or cutting, I'm not going to lose too much sleep. So that's my thought process. If I just turn the EQ off, because I've boosted the level up, that you'll get a big level shift, which will be deceptive. So rather than do that, I will just select all these EQ nodes and turn them on and off at once, so you can hear the overall effect of that on the sound and whether you like it. And then maybe I'll come back and see what you guys think. So let's play you a bit.
Solo comer y acompañarme, libre como el viento a favor, por mi sangre cuando todo le conviene por amor, no se hace ni un problema aunque el mundo se tropiece. Y a veces por los techos se me pierde, se escapa un buen rato de mis manos, y afuera todo es caos, no le importa ni un carajo, ella es una belleza indomable.
Hopefully you like that. I quite like that. I mean, I think it's slightly deceptive. There's a little inch up in level because I'm boosting in more places than I'm cutting, and especially in the kind of the low mid range, that has quite an important influence on the way we hear things. So I think I'm getting away with a little bit of loudness deception. If I was mastering this for real, then I'd have my perception plug-in to automatically balance the before and after loudness to make sure that didn't happen. But that shows you my thought process. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking. So I want to get through some more. Let's just jump back and see whether there's any immediate questions coming up. Nothing major. People seem to like it. Lots of people saying hello, hi to everybody. Got to crack on. Let's get back to the next song, which is going to be from Hans. It's another YouTube link. So I will remove those EQ changes and I'll jump straight in and correct for the loudness normalization change. What do we got? This one's, oh, okay, this is quite a lot louder. This has been turned down by 5 dB. So let's unmute that.
maybes and maybe will the landslide bring you down? Will the landslide bring you down?
So that's sounding really nice. So what have I done? I've increased the gain by 3.5 dB. So YouTube is using a reference level of -14. It was turned down by 5 dB, which means that it was -9 LUFS to start with, which in my opinion is pretty loud for this kind of for this material, for a gentle kind of folky tune like this. That's a question of taste. Some people will disagree, but this is my live stream, so that's what I'm going to say. So I haven't turned it up as much. I don't think it needs to go right back up. So I've turned it by 3.5, so that would put it at -10.5, 11.5. My arithmetic is terrible. Anyway, so I haven't turned it up quite as much. And then the first change that I made was to reduce some of that. There's a big warm patch at like kind of 190 hertz. A little bit of EQ build up there. Now, again, I mean, all of this, neither of these masters, I would say, is wrong to begin with. It's all a matter of taste. So for me, I'm feeling like that kind of frequency is really important for this kind of vocal, especially in a slightly retro style. So you definitely need enough of that. And I was just at the end there experimenting. I want to listen again and wonder whether I've taken out too much. But I do think it was kind of sounding a bit thick and a bit woolly. It was kind of building up that frequency at around about that 190 hertz region, which made the whole thing sound a little bit, I mean, it makes it sound nice and soft and warm, but maybe too much so. And then I also experimented with this just gentle boost in the high frequency. So that's 3.4K, 1.5 dB. So I'm going to play a bit more and just listen and see what I think about that, how much of that 190 hertz to cut. Let's just quickly look and see whether you guys have got any comments. Kev says, lads and ladies, this is the power of EQ and monitoring. Yeah, I mean, all I'm doing is changing EQ at this point. I mean, the limiter is in there to catch any peaks, but it's not doing any work. So you're absolutely right, Kev. It's all about EQ. I mean, of course, all of these tracks are mastered already, so they'll have had some kind of compression and limiting. And I don't know whether this song was mixed by the person who sent it in, mixed and mastered, or just mastered. So it's possible that, you know, the kind of the compression, that quite loud result that we were hearing was there in the original mix and not done in the mastering. You know, either way, it's not like it's causing problems. It's not distorting, or I don't think that, you know, the song is quite gentle, is quite consistent dynamic throughout. So I don't think it needs a kind of huge dynamic range necessarily to work. I just feel like for this kind of material, did it need to be that loud, and what other stuff is it going to go on a similar sounding album or compilation? So let's just play a little bit more and make a final decision about that cut in 190 hertz. I've eased off that slightly. I think I had a cut of 3 at one point, maybe, or 3.5. So I've brought that back to -2. I think, especially with the extra top added, I think that's balanced. Which, you know, all of these things, it's always a case of balance. You lift the top, maybe you need a little bit more bottom, you cut the lows, maybe you need a bit more highs, you know, all of this stuff. For every EQ action, there is a similar and probably opposite reaction, and not necessarily equal and opposite. But yeah, there you go. Those are my thoughts. And I mean, I think one thing to say is if you look at the dynameter display here, you know, down the bottom here, we have that first song sent in by Alexi, or Alexis, I don't know, which was much more dynamic. This one is pushed much harder, and you can clearly see the difference there on dynameter. But of course, they both end up sounding a similar level when they're played back online because of loudness normalization. So, you know, that's just an example of, you know, if the goal with this song was to get it loud, to get it to stand out from other things, I wonder whether that wasn't the case. But if that had been the goal, I'm not sure that it's necessarily working. So let's clear out the EQ and go back. I'll just reset the gain there to 0. Let me look at the next song I have. And by the way, if you are enjoying this, please share it. Please give it a like. Please post the link somewhere on social media so that other people who might like it can find it and take a look as well. And remember, this kind of, I mean, I'm being really quick with these critiques, but I do these kind of critiques on songs that members of the Home Mastering Masterclass course, which starts this Friday, go to homemastering.com to find out more. Members of that course get these critiques. They can send in their songs, and I will do these as part of the monthly live streams that I do, where I also answer questions, give feedback in general. And also, for if you've done the masterclass course, you can join the Home Mastering Hub membership site, where there's a content library with 34 other videos, in depth, as it happens, mastering videos with me, and more. They also get access to Q&A live streams as well. So please share this if you think people will like it. The next song was sent in by David, and okay, this was a Spotify link. So okay, let's get rid of the ads. Let me just play a bit and make sure you guys can hear it. Let's just jump back to the comments and make sure you can. Kev says, what's my opinion of using a tilt EQ? Somebody's asking whether you're hearing post EQ. You should definitely be hearing post EQ. I'm surprised you didn't hear the cut in Pro Q. I only clicked it very briefly, but Kev is hearing the cut. So, yeah, I'm just playing out through. Yep, we're going through there. That's going to the output. Let me check my routing. Sudden paranoia. Brave, Spotify, microphone. Yep. So you definitely should be hearing it post EQ. To that person who commented. Pablo says, yes, we can hear the Spotify audio. So that's good. I mean, let's just double check. If let's do this and make sure that you guys are hearing the EQ. I mean, I don't know, maybe, I don't see why the Pro Q wouldn't. You should hear it. Let's play a bit. Spotify, play, more ads.
I had some trouble waking up to face another day. It was so cold outside, I thought I'd better stay. Just lying in bed and spend the day sleeping.
Okay, maybe it's because I left the mic up. Let me try that test again. Just double check everybody can hear the EQ boost if I mute this mic.
It's
guys can hear that happening. I'm just going to jump back to the comments and check. Was it because I had the mic open? I think it might be because I had the mic open. So you were hearing two versions of the audio. Somebody says lol. I don't know what lol means. I'm going to assume you can hear it. I don't see how you could not hear it. No band pass. Okay. That's weird. No, you guys, that was pretty extreme. You guys should have heard it. I told you this was a challenge to set up technically. Okay, let me think. Okay, let's change the output device. Okay. So you guys can definitely still hear me. So let's try playing it this way instead.
Business people waking up, hurrying on their way, while I stay just lying in bed and spend the day sleeping. So don't you go and wake me, please leave me here while I drift away and let me lie here just a...
Did you hear it that time? I've got to wait for the YouTube delay before I can see your comments coming in. Aha! Now it's working. Okay, cool. That's fine. Okay, so we can carry on. Good. That's a relief. Oh, that probably means I could get mic ducking working as well, but I'll save that for another time. Okay, fine. So I'll play you a little bit more of this song. I'm hearing a real kind of Beatles vibe, kind of Norwegian Wood, I'm Only Sleeping feel about it. And I have, let me just double check I've got the levels reset. Yeah, because I don't have normalization enabled in Spotify. Lost it. There we go. Normalize volume, set the same volume for all tracks. That would be on. I have it off, so you're hearing the original mastered level of this song. So.
While longer I lay dreaming and my mind is far away, and when I wake up you know where I want to stay, just lying in bed and spend the day sleeping.
hopefully you can hear what I'm doing there. I'm just experimenting with a low shelf, and I've got the auto gain turned on the Pro Q here because, boosting by 2.5 dB with a very broad boost like that, getting right up to 300 Hertz, is definitely going to change the way we hear the loudness. So I don't know whether the auto gain in Pro Q is perfect, but it's pretty good. So it gives you a better idea. In fact, if I disable it and just demonstrate that so you can hear what I mean.
Just lying in bed and spend the day sleeping.
Really hear that drop there, whereas if I turn auto gain back on, you hear a more accurate representation of what the EQ is doing. Of course, what I'm doing is just warming things up a little bit. Now, again, kind of interesting question. This sounds to me like it's Beatles influenced, specifically pre-Sgt. Pepper, I would say. I'm Only Sleeping is that Sgt. Pepper or is it the one before? Norwegian Wood is definitely Rubber Soul, so, and those albums, the original masters at least, back then they were EQ'd somewhat differently. They tended to have a brighter, more present mid-range than a lot of stuff these days. So if you're going for an authentic kind of vintage sound, if you like, maybe the original mastered sound that David had there was absolutely right. For me, I like the way that it brings out the low end of the guitars and the voices and the bass, just warms things up a bit. Still sounds, authentic to me, but just, a little bit more warm and full and pleasing. So I think, again, that's definitely a tasting. I think the level of this song is probably about right for my taste. Certainly not too loud. So yeah, let's move on to another song. Let's just jump back into the comments and see what anybody said. It does make the bass richer, and absolutely right, Strafaria, all the piano stuff, everything there just kind of warms up. And Kev says perhaps I retain the very highs, but if they want to sound like the Beatles, again, the high frequencies didn't trouble me too much in that, especially not with that low frequency boost. I mean, again, this is kind of quick reactions, and there's all kinds of extra stuff that you can always do with in mastering sessions like these. And a proper mastering session, I could easily spend half an hour to an hour working on a single song. And also, I'm not using any extra dynamics processing here. I don't think it's been needed so far, but all of these things are factors. So here we have, this was sent in by Aaron. I'll turn my mic off.
Downtown with the old pole, still trying to find my role. Jazz kicking back, taking notes. Then one day she walked my way. Pretty young thing flown in from Spain. She said she's dropping 30 on the music thing. She moving out to Brooklyn, getting paid to sing. I wondered how she started out touring on the road. She told me, boy, just do your thing, see how far it goes. I really don't know what the future holds, but I'm feeling like a star in these tattered clothes. No matter the scenario, I'm on a crash course with destiny though. I can't sleep when I got blows. I'm staying up tonight, y'all, that's how it goes.
Tonight, slip away into the morning light. Let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be
I remember thinking this one was interesting when I just very quickly, checked the link. And incidentally, I believe there may be some language coming up, in which case, if it hasn't already happened, in which case I apologize for anybody who might find that offensive. Because listening to the rap section, my instinct is to brighten that up a bit, to open it out, to get some more clarity into the vocals there. But then those backing vocals that come in are already super bright. And this is one of those interesting challenges. This might not be, that might be exactly the way that the artist and the engineer wanted it, in which case, I would ask that question. And if that's the reply, then that's fine. But if that is something that they would be interested in addressing, let's say I do an EQ where I open out the top end of the vocals a bit and the high frequency, maybe it'll work because the vocals are bright, super high up, and let me try it. I'll give it a try. But sometimes you get a master where, for example, classic thing, dull vocals, bright drums. So you want to brighten up the sound overall for the sake of the vocals, because the vocals are the most important thing, but the drums become unbearable. That kind of issue is basically impossible to fix in mastering. You can quite often find a compromise that everybody is happy with. And sometimes, these are creative decisions that are deliberate. But the other thing I noticed about this is that there are certain bass notes really sticking out. I don't want to have the mic on while it's happening, so I'll just kind of waggle a finger at you or something if I hear one, so to kind of point those out. But let's experiment with that EQ and see where we can get.
When I got flows, but I'm paid to sing. I wondered how she started out touring on the road. She told me, boy, just do your thing, see how far it goes. I really don't know what the future holds, but I'm feeling like a star in these tattered clothes. No matter the scenario, I'm on a crash course with destiny though. I can't sleep when I got flows. I'm staying up tonight, y'all, that's how it goes.
Tonight, slip away into the morning light.
Sleep when I got flows. I'm staying up tonight, y'all, that's how it goes.
Tonight, slip away into the morning light. Let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over.
Up again tonight, this never gets old.
Okay, so that's interesting because actually that EQ boost is not a problem. I've gone much lower down, 1.9K, to bring out the presence of the rap vocals, and that's low enough that it's not really driving the backing vocals over the top. Maybe I might decide to bring in a high shelf there as well and have the two kind of cross over somehow to improve that balance even further. But right now I'm listening, and I'm kind of comfortable with it. So let me just point out some of those bass notes that are sticking out. And again, these could be musical decisions, creative decisions, but it's it's something I'm hearing, so I'll point it out.
Everybody like you till you break the mold. Jealous motherfuckers try to steal your soul. You learn to walk away when there's different goals. Stepping out again the New York streets. Everybody tweaking over C9 heat. I took a year off, found a better me. That's why you gotta listen to your OGs. Building structures, working on the beats. Hitting strip clubs, breaking bread, smoking weed. A better headspace can do one good. I hope we all make it out the hood. And know the brother when I needed that. Life gets crazy when you living fast. It's always a trip, looking to the past. Clinging to these moments, but they never last.
Tonight, slip away into the morning light. Let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over. Tonight, slip the morning light. Let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over. Tonight, slip away into.
Well, you could hear that, but so what's that frequency? 154 is the kind of area, boom, boom, boom. There's certain notes in the bass line that are really popping out, but I can already hear that cutting it. I don't like the result that's getting because it takes away from too many other things that I do like. The kick drum has a ton of energy in there. It's affecting the, I forget what but mainly the kick drum, but it just generally it was better when those notes were sounding, in the sense that they weren't leaping out at you. But everything else I felt started to sound a bit empty and a bit hollow. And I don't think a general boost down there, as I did on the earlier song, is going to have the effect that I'm looking for. That's when I start to think about maybe things like dynamic EQ. But I don't think that's going to work because the kick drum is so present in there. The kick, well, we could try that. Let's, so what have we got? Let's reset that to 0 and pull back that frequency. It's nice and easy in the Pro Q. Let's just see what that does.
The morning light, let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over. Tonight, slip away into the morning light. Let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over. Tonight, slip away into the morning light. Let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over. Tonight, slip away into the on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over. Tonight, slip away into the morning light. Let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over. Tonight, slip away. Let it all come down. I'm on a high, and I won't be back until the night is over. Tonight, slip away into
That was interesting. I didn't actually think that was going to work, but it kind of does. That's not perfect yet. If I was going to do that for real, I'd really want to make sure I've tuned in everything correctly there. But I mean, you probably saw what I did. I started off with a dynamic reduction at that same frequency instead. So it only cuts in when certain levels trigger. Then the whole thing sounded a bit thin to me. So I added a boost in the same region, which I could have done by just using the same original dynamic EQ, but it's kind of nice to be able to separate them. So yeah, maybe that would work in that case. I mean, that's the kind of thing where, so, you know, my approach with this, if I get something in where I think there's something questionable, because would that be better addressed in the mix is the question. You know, is that something that we can fix well enough in the master? Should it be fixed in the master, or would it be better to go back to the mix just and have some kind of extra compression or dynamic EQ just on that bass part, and then kind of tweak the mix around it? And often, you know, I mean, I would say almost always the answer to that is yes, it would be better done in the mix, but very often there's not time, or there isn't the budget, or there isn't the will. People have just fed up at this point of tweaking their mixes and just want it done. So, you know, I mean, that's a great example of what, you know, potentially could be achieved. Let me jump back to the comments and see whether you guys thought that was working or not, whether that was something that I should pursue. Yeah, there's lots of saturation on the bass. I agree with that. Interesting. Pablo is hearing bass sticking out from 60 hertz. So yeah, low band compressor. I think a multi-band compressor probably would be overkill. I think I'd want to be more surgical for something like this. And I think so Pablo's saying maybe automate some parameters in some sections. That's another option. If the voice and the EQ weren't, if they were fighting against each other, if that boost for the presence in the vocals was getting involved with the backing vocals, then maybe having a de-esser to pull some of those back. Again, that's a kind of like a dynamic EQ process. But with all of these things, the question is, should it be done in mastering? How much should be done in mastering? How much should be done in mixing? But it certainly could be done in mastering. And I got a question from Dave. Are you saying using, I actually don't know, because I just added it to this session here. Let's take a look. So currently it's minimum phase, so 0 latency. For these kind of changes, for these kind of broad changes, I'm absolutely fine with that. And in fact, you know, it's only when I get really surgical that I start thinking that maybe linear phase would be better or necessary. David. So let's see if we can squeeze in one more song. If you're enjoying this stream, if you're finding it interesting, please share it, like it, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like, if you haven't seen my stuff before, so that as many people as possible can find it. And the reason I'm doing it is that this Friday, my Home Mastering Masterclass course launches. It's an 8-week course where I walk you through the mastering of 8 different songs, 8 different pieces of software, 8 different challenges. You get to ask questions. There's a community forum where you can connect to other members. Some people upload their masters and get other members of the course to give feedback. I do monthly Q&As and quick mastering critiques just like this one, so you can send in your songs. I mean, there's a ton of people I'm not going to be able to, I'm sorry, do your songs during this stream, but usually in the masterclass there's plenty of time to do a critique of anybody's song who wants it. Certainly that has been the case so far. So if you would like to find out more about the masterclass course, head over to homemastering.com, and there is a £90 discount this week if you sign up before Friday, that you can get off of that. It's a super popular course. I'm really proud of it. I would love you to check it out. So let's remove these bits of EQ that we have here. Again, I thought the loudness of that song was pretty much spot on for the kind of thing that I would suggest. Sam, let's copy that. Okay, different site. So I'm just going to listen to this. It's louder. I wonder whether I'm going to have the opinion that this one is slightly too loud. We'll see.
That is hot, feeling hot when you hear me say pirates of sailors, tequila and rum. Tide is high, feel the drum, hear the drum. Yeah. And pirates of sailors, tequila and rum. Tide is high, feel the drum, hear the drum, feel the drum. Ay, 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 ay,
that's interesting. I ended up not thinking it was not that much too loud. So I pulled it back by half a dB. But then I felt like I wasn't getting enough weight in the low end, you know, that slight reduction in energy overall. So I've lifted up, what's that, 40 hertz. I don't think there's anything really happening down at 40 hertz, but the top end of this EQ boost is going to be just lifting everything down in that kind of 50 and 60 region subtly. I really liked that extra weight. But then when I was toggling that on and off, I was thinking, okay, so that actually seems to be boosting the loudness. So I've turned the automatic parameter on. And now when I toggle it on and off, even though they're level compensated, to me, the version with the EQ sounds a little bit louder. So I don't know if it's hard to see on the stream, but there's the bypass button. Look, that's bypassed. That's as is. Let me just play that to you and see whether that sounds the same to you guys. Maybe change my mind again about that. Probably doesn't sound any louder, but I like the extra thump and the extra weight that is in there with that EQ boost. And it still sounds loud enough to me, my preferred monitoring level, even though I've pulled the level back slightly. And you can see, again, Dynameter is showing you that it's been mastered pretty hot. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I mean, another thing I'm hearing about it is quite a saturated, it's not crunchy high end. It's that kind of slightly, it's saturated. It's it's been very fashionable for the last few years. And that's probably a creative decision that everybody is really happy with. I certainly don't object to it on this song, you know, in this genre. Certainly seems to fit. But if that was a result of the level having pushed a bit harder, and if you wanted to ease back on that a little bit, then the opportunity is there if it wasn't mastered as loud originally. So let me jump over to the comments and see whether any of you, people saying fairly hot. Yeah, Pablo says tame a bit of 1.5 kilohertz feels a bit forward to me. It is definitely bright in that upper mid-range, maybe brighter than it needs to be. So that is an experiment. Although, I mean, again, once the level, this is the thing, the level is so crucial, you know, what seems unacceptable at one level may not seem right at another. Let me try, you know, you saw me, I thought about bringing in a high shelf like this just to reduce that. I could try that just so you guys can see how it sounds. I mean, I think with this kind of high energy, you know, it's meant to be kind of slightly crunchy and slightly quite in your face, I think. So I think it probably suits the style. But somebody asked what the Q on the 40 hertz, that's 1.5 basically, Q for what that's worth. You need to be careful with Q because different EQs can sometimes, the Qs can sound different on different EQs. But for anybody using the Fab filter, I think those numbers are fairly standard. 0.7 is a quite a standard broad default EQ, Q for an EQ, and I think Fab filter kind of works with that. So let me just experiment with those upper mids, and then we probably will have to sign off. Let's take a listen.
Bittersweet in my glass, I drink up till the last drop is on my lips, and that one kiss, and dance, and then I close my eyes and gently you will flow with me, like a boat at the sea, rocking with me, rocking with me, rocking with me.
Have you guys been listening to me do that with the mic playing through? My bad. I need to get the mic ducking sorted. I'll just play you a little bit of that. So I settled on a cut of half a dB from 2.6K upwards with a Q of 0.3 for those who are keeping notes. I don't feel that that is essential for this song. I don't dislike it. I was quite comfortable with it previously with that kind of the quite energetic high end. This would very much be a question of context for me. You know, have I been given any reference tracks? What kind of playlists are they hoping this is going to show up in, and what is the sound there? If it's on an album, how does the rest of the album sound? Talk to the clients, you know, what's their taste? If they've mixed it this way, the chances are they like that slightly crispy top end, so maybe it should stay that way. So, you know, we're now very much in the realm of taste rather than absolutes. And this is something that happens all the time with mastering. You know, in the first 20 seconds, you get the level right, you get the broad EQ change right, and you're good. After that, it's all down to nuance. And that's what makes it so fascinating and interesting. So I apologize. Let me just play that to you with the mic off so you can actually hear those changes properly. I'm happy with that EQ in. I think maybe that cut is too broad or too low. You know, as always, there are opinions to be had about this. But for me, I'm quite like just with that low. I was starting to wonder whether some extra warmth in the low mids might also be right. But then we get into the rabbit hole of full mastering. So I think I'm going to call it a day there. I'll just go back and see if there are any follow-up questions to that. Yes, thank you, Strafari. I apologize for leaving the mic on. So Normalized Audio says, I'm curious about multiband compression. I'm not using any multiband compression on this. Multiband compression in general is something that I go into. I have a course called Home Mastering Compression and Limiting, which is available at homemastering.com/HMC. But it's also something that we talk about during the Home Mastering Masterclass course. And remember, that's why I'm doing this live stream today, because the Masterclass starts on Friday. There's a £90 discount for anybody who'd like to get in. And if you enjoyed this live stream and would like your songs to be critiqued as part of the live streams that come with the Masterclass, then definitely check it out. That's going to be running for the next 8 weeks. I walk through different songs, different mastering software, different plugins, different challenges. You know, we talk about mid-side EQ, we talk about stem mastering, we talk about saturation and distortion, stereo width processing, limiting versus compression, all these kind of things. There are interviews with the people who supplied the tracks where we talk about things that they liked and didn't like about the songs and what they wanted from the mastering. It's a really cool course. I get a fantastic response to it. If you've enjoyed this live stream, I'm sure you would enjoy the course as well. All the details for that are at homemastering.com. And I think that is where we will leave it. We've done the hour. We did, how many songs did we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not bad. I could have done 3 times more, I think, based on the number that were submitted. So apologies if you sent me a song and I wasn't able to get to it today. But hopefully you found some of the stuff here interesting anyway. If you've enjoyed the stream, please share it. The replays are going to be available at the same links, so please share the posts, subscribe to YouTube if you would like to, and thanks for being here and taking part. And as always, thanks for listening.